Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, we're still in quarantine mode, lockdown here. Now we're going to have a guest for you, Greg from YankeeCrazyPodcast, be on with us shortly. And he had a great conversation this week with MLB's Brian Hoke. He'll get into all that. And in terms of what's going on in baseball right now, seems like they're still throwing ideas out there of what are they going to do when they return, if they even return. Last week the president sat down with the commissioners of all the major sports, as well as Vince McMahon from the WWE. Yes, it's sports entertainment, but they draw arenas, draw big crowds. I guess there's going on ideas, what they're going to do when they get back, at least in terms of baseball. Again, a few different proposals being thrown around. One of them being that, possibly starting the season in May or at least middle of May, but doing it in the minor league ballparks in like Florida, Tampa, as well as Arizona. So basically, the teams will be playing in empty ballparks, which could be kind of interesting. It's different. The games will be televised, so fans will be able to watch. And I guess the networks will love it, because the ratings will be through the roof just for that, just for the hunger of sports. And it'll be kind of interesting, just to see how these players playing in an empty stadium. Would they be excited if they hit a home run, or will they showboat as much, or maybe you'll just see the players interacting and joking around a little bit, and they'll probably try to have what they do in the playoffs. They have first base cam and home plate cam, just get a little inside the game, hear the players chat with each other. So could be interesting. I just at this point I don't think that would happen, just in terms of the logistics of it. I mean, you have 30 teams, and I guess would they all have to live at one hotel for a whole month or two until it gets back to normal? So it could happen. It's possible, and I guess I'd rather have that than something rather than nothing. But I still think that they just want to hold off as long as reasonably possible and kind of get the okay by early middle May that all right, fans can start come together again. As for the COVID-19 virus, it seems like the curve is slightly plateauing a little bit, at least in New York. I mean, it's still terrible with some of these numbers coming back, but at least for the rest of the country, it doesn't seem to be this widespread, I'm saying it's a pandemic, but it's not like every city's being affected the way like New York is. Obviously it's propping up a little bit in New Orleans, getting some bad stuff out of Detroit and Jersey, but it hasn't gone full blown crazy every city across America. So could be a situation where maybe on a state-by-state basis, for example, obviously New York would be a hotspot where you wouldn't want people coming back if possible. So maybe the New York teams, or teams that are in these highly affected areas, maybe they're the ones to play in Arizona, or in a place like Texas, which doesn't seem to be hit hard. Maybe they kind of go back to normal. So a lot of stuff still out there. And, everyone right now is just throwing out crazy theories. And this overall, again, this is probably not going to know till at least end of April, early May, where the official sort of 30 days of quarantine yourself nationally goes down, and then I guess a decision will be made from top down, and I guess every state will kind of take it on a case by case basis. But enough of the doom and gloom. Let's get into a little happiness. My next guest, Greg from YankeeCrazyPodcast, met him a couple weeks ago. And I did his show. He's out in California, so he could give us a very Californian perspective on this whole thing. So let's bring him on. Hey, Craig. So thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me on, James. Appreciate it.
Oh, totally. Now, you're a first here. I think you might be our first out-of-state Section 420 Talkin Yankees guest. So,
Oh,
a lot of fun.
Wow. That is big.
So you're out in California. So which part of California you're actually in?
I am in just outside of Sacramento. So it's considered the, Northern Central Valley, maybe, or about an hour south of Lake Tahoe. So Northern California, I guess we could say.
And I just think it's awesome. You got the original Yankee Stadium seats. I mean,
Yes, original seats. 23 for, obviously everyone knows, Don Mattingly.
No.
I didn't choose that. I just luckily got that one.
Yeah, I always see those, and they have them at Yankee Stadium. They still offering them. I'm always I'm going to pull the trigger on. I think that looks good. If you have a garage to set it up in or something. I still have my apartment, so I just don't want to have them in the kitchen. Be kind of random.
Yeah. I usually take them into the living room. We actually took them in the living room for the playoffs last year, and they kind of stayed. And then I actually just brought them out here for this. And quick story about these. These are actually, thankfully, from my wife. My wife was the one we had just gotten married in 2008, and obviously that was the last year of the season, last year of the old Yankee Stadium. And when these went up for sale, she said, "You got to go for it." You know, she wanted a dining room set. I wanted Yankee Stadium seats. And another reason why I love her, she said, "You got to go for it. Forget my dining room set. You need Yankee Stadium seats." So my wife, Susanna, I am thanking officially now on video for these.
That's pretty awesome of her. I just could imagine me in my situation with that. I would have lost that argument, really. So totally cool for her. And before we get into baseball, just in terms of this life in general, I mean, obviously California has the shelter in place. I mean, how is this life like? Obviously, New York, we're on lockdown. There's no restaurants, no bars, we're all inside. I mean, how is it, out in California?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Not as crazy as those pictures I see of Times Square, which is just nuts, and all over New York. But out here, it's a little more relaxed. There is the shelter in place, but there's still restaurants open for takeout, at least. It's just a weird time. I still know a lot of people and have family in New York, so they're telling me that it's really, really crazy. And compared to that, I feel like it's much more relaxed for us, thankfully, but it's still weird times.
Now, you have, of course, Yankee Crazy Podcast. May just want to give us, when did you start it? Why did you start it? What was the inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. So I lived in New York for, let's see, I was born in New York, we were living in Manhattan until, 5 years ago, and then moved out to California. And I missed talking Yankees with people. And, that would be like an everyday thing, from friends or people I worked with, being able to talk about the Yankees. And so I was commuting here, it was in 2000, we're going on a year and a half, so it was 2018. I was at this one job where I was commuting probably 45 minutes a day, and it just hit me one day where I'm like, actually a friend of mine had told me about being able to record in your car, etc. So I said, you know what, I can have an outlet to talk about the Yankees, and I can do it in my car on the commute. So it made the time go faster. So that was the inspiration. And I just said, I've got a lot of my own thoughts and opinions that haven't been able to talk to anybody about, and now I do.
Yeah, and of course, we met maybe a couple months ago just through, these Yankee groups, and I did your show a couple weeks ago, and
Yes.
we had a great time, and I just I didn't expect to probably be working with you and to speak with you again, but of course, we're obviously here in New York, we want to stay inside, we kind of want to start promoting just staying at home, so we're gonna kind of roll with this, and I just thought, hey, we have Greg because he was just such a great guy. So this week on the show, Yankee Crazy Podcast, because you had a great guest, MLB's Brian Hoke. How was that like? Because, I mean, a guy like him, he probably doesn't know what he's doing because, he's a beat reporter for the team every day, but he's probably like, what am I going to do with myself? So, how did you find him? How did you find his interview? And was there anything that surprised you by speaking with him?
Yeah, so I think I had randomly sent a tweet out to Brian. I was talking to him trying to figure out how we connected, and I had sent him out a tweet on his birthday during the 2019 season. And then after that, I connected with him, and I think I had emailed him a question at that point, and I brought up that comment that I had to him on Twitter, and just had a couple of random emails back and forth with him, and I just threw it out there saying, hey, can we get you on the show? Would love to do an interview. And he said, yeah, let's figure it out. And that was during the 2019 season, like around August, that he had said yes to that. And then we just kept trying and trying. You know, he's obviously got a crazy schedule during the season. He's going to every different, you know, following the Yankees to every game, and just didn't happen. And then wrote to him again in the off season, like right after the playoffs. And he said, yeah, let's get this going. And, you know, one of those things, just time went on. And then maybe about a month ago, I said, hey, would love to get you on. And he wrote back to me and he's like, yeah, he's like, I got really nothing to do now that they had shut down spring training. So I was really stoked to get him on. You know, that was, like you said, our last episode. If anyone wants to go check that out, it was number 175. And I'm not sure if there was anything surprising. Well, I felt like one thing that was surprising was hearing his background and his origin story, as I called it, how he had started as a Met website and then was hired by the Mets from that, like right after high school. So that was pretty cool. And the other things that I loved about the interview with him was all his stories. You know, that's like such a big part of my show, is like the stories, like the background stories. You know, obviously everybody loves talking about the games and the players and what they did during the games during the season. But at this time especially, it's all of the like background stories of the team, whether it's something about them personally or something completely different from baseball. That's what I loved about it. And he told some really awesome stories, especially about his book, Mission 27, which was about the 2009 season. And, you know, besides that, I think it was more about him. I was surprised about. Nothing really too much. He told a good A-Rod story about A-Rod having just so much people around him and just the craziness. And that was something not too surprising to me, but kind of just expect that from an A-Rod story.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I listened to it last night, but of course, yeah, I don't want to give away any spoilers. But yeah, definitely, check it out at Yankee Crazy Podcast on Apple. And of course, they can follow you on Instagram as well as your Facebook page. The whole interview, again, it's like a little more than an hour, so he gave you a lot of time. Again, a lot of the stories, especially the one with David Robinson, I won't give it away, just kind of.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
A lot of good stuff there. And he's kind of like everyone else in the same boat. Like, we just don't know what are they going to do when they get back. There's all these different proposals in terms of maybe starting the season and playing like in minor league parks in Arizona or Tampa. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, give me baseball. I don't care what it is. They threw out that Cactus League, Grapefruit League, and I don't know if you saw that, but they were trying to realign and have the Yankees, I guess, just based on proximity of who's playing in the Grapefruit League area. And it was like Yankees, Toronto, Phillies, and somebody else. And, I know some purists were saying, oh, this is terrible. Yankees won't play the Red Sox. But I'm like, just give me some baseball. I want to see them play. I want to see a season, and whatever they have to do to make that happen, I'm all for.
Yeah, no, me as well. I'm just intrigued how it would be if there's like, they're playing in these like empty ballparks. And It's just like, it'd be kind of bizarre. Like, would they be as emotional? Would they like showboat if they hit a home run, or like a pitcher like pump his fist after a strikeout? Because it's like, all right, dude, it's you and like 10 people. Like, relax,
Yeah, yeah, that definitely would be really weird. So yeah, that is a big factor in it, because that is, like you said, that's a big part of the game, and them showing emotions. And yeah, maybe without fans there, it takes away a lot of their emotion and adrenaline, etc. It might feel like fake or something. I don't know. That would be really wild.
Or even like managers coming out to argue an umpire. Like, you're not going to argue if there's like no one pumping you up. It's just like, it'd just be kind of bleh.
Yeah, it would be. And the sound too. You get that sound when you're watching on TV, and it would be quiet, or at least close to quiet. That would be pretty weird.
It's the WWE is, I think, this, they're in the same boat because it's professional wrestling, but they get big crowds, so they're probably thinking of putting like canned crowd noise. You can do it at baseball, I guess, technically. Just hit the button.
Yeah.
Or a boo. I mean,
yeah. I could see that, like a laugh track on sitcoms.
like the old I Love Lucy show where Desi Arnaz like, so obvious it was him, like just by sitting there. But I think the only benefit to that, I think it would open up the game in terms of, because I think they would just cover, because obviously you would then cover this wall to wall of cameras. You got the first base cam, second base cam, maybe the umpires have a cam, and I think they might just want to have it overproduced where we could actually see the game like we're on the field. You'll see the players talking because it'll be so quiet, and you can pick everything up. And I'm sure every player will be mic'd up. Obviously, they have to watch their language, but I think the only benefit of that is actually give fans more access to actually see what it's like on the field. What are these players joking around about when they're talking to each other? So, because they got to make it entertaining beyond the baseball at that point, because there's no, they got to add something. So, could be some benefits to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I was trying to think about when the Yankees, Japan, if you've ever heard, is usually notorious for quietness. I'm not sure about in their baseball stadiums, but I know like musical concerts, a lot of times the fans are even at a concert, when everybody here, you go to a concert here, it's super loud, depending on what kind of show you see. But I heard that they stay really quiet. And I was thinking about the Yankees when they played in Japan. What was that, like 2000? I don't know what time, when they played that series where they opened in Japan. And I feel like that was kind of quiet, and I was trying to think if it would be the same thing or how quiet. But yeah, definitely odd with nobody in the stands.
And this kind of reminds me. I think it might have been 2004, and I think that was the only time they had the whole team together when I was in Japan, because it was before like Giambi got like that whatever growth to it in his like stomach, whatever that turned out to be. But like for one, but for one shining moment, we had in the same lineup, A-Rod, Giambi, Matsui, Sheffield, Posada, like what the 2004, even though the 2014 was good. I mean, it was a good team. Obviously, we all know what happened against the Red Sox, but that lineup could have been insane if we had a healthy Giambi for the whole season. And we only had it for like a brief glimpse in that Japanese series. And I think what happened is when Giambi got back home, they said, he maybe caught a bug from Japan.
Yeah.
And it never turned out to be a tumor. Luckily, it wasn't like anything serious, and he did come back and hit like one home run. But of course, they kept him off the postseason run. But you just reminded me of that one moment where we had like the best lineup ever, and just obviously Giambi got sick, and rest is history from that.
Yeah, that's right. I almost forgot about that. That was wild.
So now, I guess we'll have like a little fun here. Since there's nothing going on the field, you always like talking about Yankees of past and present. So I'm going to give you a couple of Yankees at a couple of key positions, and you're going to tell me who would you take.
Okay, perfect.
We'll start big first in center field. You got Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio?
Oh, well, here's one thing about this, and it doesn't have to be. Let me back up. Here's one thing I think about that. I would say Mickey Mantle, and my reasoning is very odd. It's not based on statistics, although you could make the case for it. But did you ever hear the story how Joe DiMaggio was really mean to Mickey Mantle when he first came up? And I don't know, that always stuck with me. And I was always, I love Joe DiMaggio, as a Yankee legend. Obviously, I didn't get to see him play, but, back in the 70s growing up, he was Mr. Coffee, and he was always at the stadium throwing out a ball, etc. But that always stuck with me, where he was really mean to Mickey Mantle when Mantle was just coming up. And a lot of people say it was because, DiMaggio was at the end of his career, and, here's Mickey Mantle, destined to be a superstar. So I feel he was a little bit I don't know, jealous or kind of like trying to stop time for himself. So that's my reasoning for that, which obviously doesn't make any sense in terms of stats. But I don't know. I just always liked Mickey Mantle, hearing about him, hearing about the stories, especially off the field where he partied all the time with those guys, which was great. But, DiMaggio was amazing too. It's kind of like, they and I don't know their lifetime statistics. I just know they both had incredible careers. But I would have to say Mickey Mantle, and the other reason is Mickey Mantle being a switch hitter. I think I'd rather take him if I was choosing a lineup, let's say. So Mickey.
Definitely go the same way. I think DiMaggio lost a couple of years because he was in World War II. So I think he had. Yeah. So he obviously not, I don't think he would have ever been like a 500 home run hitter, but obviously Mantle, definitely a 500 home run hitter.
Yeah.
And being hurt and missing most, but still put up the crazy stats. And of course the defense, switch hitting. I think overall Mantle was the better athlete. So now I would definitely go Mantle on that one. So now we're going to switch it up on the mound a little bit now. So you got Ron Guidry or Andy Pettitte.
Wow. Two, amazing lefties. Guidry, being a kid, got to see him a little bit. Don't really have a lot of memories of that, especially, although I have those like memories because they're showing a lot. I think they showed it the other night, his 18 strikeout game in 78. And always liked Guidry and when he was a coach with the Yankees, but really being in, getting to see so much of Andy Pettitte and in the 90s and that stare down when he's got the glove up to his face and you only see his eyes and they would focus on it. I would have to say Pettitte because I saw him more and just his intensity on the mound. And, you hear the stories of after a game, he'll win let's say, he won a game, 2-1 or something like that. And after the game, reporters would say that he was so intense that even though he got the win, he'd be angry with himself because he hung a slider for that one run, let's say, that the other team got. And just that intensity and focus, I would go with Andy on that.
Yeah, I meant to side with you. I think like Gator probably had better stuff, probably a better fastball, and he pitched some big games too. He pitched the Bucky Dent game.
But
I think he pitched in a different era where you didn't have the wild card round, divisional round. So it's like you have to Andy might have had more cracks at the bat, but yeah, if I had to win one game, I would definitely go with Andy Pettitte just because.
Yeah.
And to me, the best Andy Pettitte game was in '96, the Game 5 against John Smoltz, where the Yankees won 1-0. I mean, that was his. Even Smoltz said. Even though in Smoltz's loss, he said that was his best game he ever pitched in terms of stuff. But that was his Pettitte at his best. And just getting through some of those double plays, 2 on, no out, and he just get out of the jam. And then that was an incredible game. So now this one's going to be a little tricky. Aaron Judge or Reggie Jackson?
Wow. Let's see. Aaron Judge or Reggie? I'd have to say Reggie at this point right now. Just because of his career. Aaron Judge, obviously, amazing player, but we got to see how much longer he's going to go. And then you say Reggie, how many World Series does Reggie have? 3? I know he won 2 with the Yankees, and then he won.
3.
How many in all?
I think he had 3. So it was like 70. Because they won
right. They had those really good years there with him. Yeah. So, you put that into the mix, and I would have to say Reggie. Although, I guess it depends on how we're looking at this in terms of team chemistry and dynamics. I think I'm going to take Aaron Judge because he's a nicer guy. You hear all those stories about Reggie, especially getting into fights with my all-time favorite player, Greg Nettles. And, Reggie just, big ego, but he was a star and he proved it out on the field. Aaron Judge, obviously more low-key, seems like more of a team leader, So in terms of stats and on the field, I got to go with Reggie on that one. But Aaron Judge, if we're looking at it as in a team player and team chemistry, I'd have to go with him. But we'll say Reggie on that one.
Yeah, I probably disagree with you a little bit, and I all for your same points, but let's probably give the edge to Judge just a little bit because, like, again, we haven't seen Judge's full potential yet. But I think in this, injuries aside, I just think, he would have just, he would be a guy hitting like 40 home runs every year, kind of like what Reggie was. And honestly, I'd give him the edge on the defense over Reggie.
Yeah, true.
He dodges the balls, he jumps up over balls. And I think, cause Reggie, like, he was kind of here just for a brief period. It was kind of a shooting star, gave us, the 3 home runs, gave us 2 rings. So obviously no complaints at all. But I think Judge, has the ability to stay here for a long time and be like our generation's Jeter. So I think I have to definitely
True.
go on that one. So the last one here, now it's going to be kind of weird for different reasons, but shortstop, Didi or Jeter, who I just mentioned.
Oh, Jeter. Gotta take Jeter. And I love Didi. Didi was great, but Derek. But yeah, just and I know a lot of people can bash Jeter because saying, his defense wasn't where it should have been and he made those plays, the jump throw plays, and other players, people argue, would have had that a lot easier. But, you just got those intangibles, which I know a lot of people talk about with Jeter. And he was a special player, no matter what. And 3,000 hits, you can't take that away from him, whatever you want to say about his defense. But I just got to go with Jeter. He's just, he's just iconic. He's just a legend. And again, I was, living in Manhattan during those glory years from, 96 into the 2000s. So those teams that Jeter played on were just really special to me. So got to give him the edge.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Like, Didi definitely has more power. Defense about the same. Maybe some can make an argument Didi's a better defensive player, but just the whole package of Jeter, his presence, the whole calming effect, and obviously all those championships, 5 of them. I mean, it definitely Jeter on that. On that, I appreciate coming on doing the show again. Check him out. It's at YankeeCrazyPodcast on Instagram, on Twitter, on the Facebook page, on Apple. Heroes Podcast. Again, hear the Brian Hawk podcast. Very good interview. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully baseball is back in a month or 2 in weather fashion. And then we'll have something to complain about. We'll complain about Stanton.
There you go.